when I truly realized that. I had been seeing a naturopath for about a year, and she kept saying to me, "You have adrenal gland fatigue, and you need to do this." And I will always tell everybody it was $300 to $400 a month in adrenal gland fatigue supplements. There was a liquid, a powder, and these different pills. Okay, well, I did it, and I was consistent, and I was very consistent for several months, and we still weren't getting results. So even though it appeared that that's what I had, and I actually had an action step, it was still generic. It was generic for the masses. It wasn't custom to me, if that makes sense. And even though I was doing what I was told I should be doing, I was getting no benefit from it. Welcome to This Might Change Your Life. I'm Kim Ressler. This is where small insights spark big shifts and real change. No noise, no hype, just honest conversations about what actually moves the needle in your health, your mindset, and in your life. Now let's dive in. Hello and welcome. So excited to kick off our podcast. You will see today I am joined by our COO from our company, Corey Colwell. She is going to be interviewing me for you to really get a little bit of a handle and to know what we are about. So, Corey, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Kim, I am so excited to be here with you. Not only do I get the pleasure and honor of working with you every day, but we have known each other for a really, really, really long and wonderful time. And I know we get to talk about that in a future episode. But I'm so honored to get to help people to know the origin story for you. And so today we get to explore that. Are you ready for me to jump in with my questions?
Absolutely.
You are officially, your title is Kim Ressler, founder and CEO of SNiP Nutrigenomics. But before that title, who were you and how is that person different from the person you are today?
Oh, that's a great question, Corey. Who am I today versus who I was before? I just have a lot more responsibility, right? But before, who was I? I was you. I was the friend, the neighbor, the volunteer, the individual that was going through life looking for answers, I think like a lot of people. And yes, I was blessed with a really cool technology that I became very passionate about. But I think I'm the same person still today, just with a lot more on my shoulders, because I really feel that we can unleash and unlock information for people for better health outcomes through what we do.
And so what you do is a solution that absolutely is changing lives. And I know we'll hear so much more about that in many stories and future episodes. But starting with you, I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about what was happening in your body in the beginning and maybe some timing, like what was going on for you when things started kind of feeling like this is just not right and how long that lasted for you.
The reason I've fallen in love with personalization and understanding somebody at a genetic level was in 2007. That was the beginning of my health journey when I was pregnant with my baby, my youngest child. Anyway, and ultimately, I was like anybody out there that suddenly something doesn't quite look right in the blood work, but then it looks normal, but the symptoms started coming in. And at that point, they kept I felt I was doing everything right? I was working out, moving my body, felt like I was getting enough water, definitely eating the rainbow, the foods. I felt like I was doing everything right, but I wasn't getting the results, right? And instead of feeling like I was conquering that fatigue and that terrible sleep that I was having, the symptoms kept compounding for me versus having long-term benefits from things that I was doing. So what did that range over? It ranged over virtually 11 years of looking for answers, and year by year, new symptoms would continue to appear. And it was just like I said, they kept compounding. And it was like light switch were turning off instead of turning on. And it was becoming extremely frustrating because ultimately I was like, wait, is this what aging is? Does aging suddenly just have one symptom, then the next, then the next, then the next, and they keep compounding? How do we unravel those? How do we unravel and go backwards to unleash all those symptoms? In other words, correct whatever is going on to not feel what I was feeling. Because by the time that 11 years had come by and gone, the amount of things that were going on had compounded to so many things that I just never felt well.
And I would imagine that as these things are going on in your body, that you're seeking answers in a system. And I'm wondering if you felt that the system that was supposed to be supplying you with answers was failing you in some way.
Absolutely. I think that is what so many, people, I think we have to look at symptoms and blood work. We have to look at a lot of things. And I think the left hand is not always talking to the right, right? So when I get going through all of my journey and tracking blood work and blood work looking good, but didn't match with the symptoms, yes, I went outside of standard allopathic medicine, Ayurveda. I went vegan. I started seeing naturopaths. I was looking for answers to the what and why, and how could I get to where I needed to go? Or it just didn't make sense to me that I should suddenly not feel well and never feel well again.
And was there a moment when you realized, like, I cannot live like this, something has to change? Or was it this kind of slower progression that you kind of, just were finding new pathways for this information that you needed?
Well, I think I was fed up with it within a few years, and I kept looking for answers. I would find something that would seem to, I don't know if you would say be a Band-Aid. It would help some, but unless I was doing, let's say, PEMF, which is a treatment I would go do. This was a little bit later in this, but I was doing it 4 or 5 times a week. That's not sustainable long term. And was I getting benefit from it? Yes, I was. But long term, can you go into and do a treatment every single day? You just can't.
No, and be doing all these other things, eating healthy and moving your body and taking care of your, meditating and all of that.
I think that's the big thing is there are so many things that we need to do, and it can be very, very overwhelming. We've only got so many hours of the day. We work full-time jobs, and I think that's why getting to the root and understanding what was going on, I think that's where people need to start, right? So it just gives you a lot of answers up front instead of the years of me looking, picking, trying to find.
Yeah. Well, and I think that leads to my next question, which might seem like an obvious, but I'd like to ask it because maybe this wasn't the case for you. Did you feel like when you were trying these things that you were doing things right? Like, were you like, this is the right way to do this, and then just not getting the results you expected? Or was it all feeling kind of like a shot in the dark?
Well, I think it was a shot in the dark. With everybody, right? And even with providers that I was working with. But I felt like I was doing something right. I felt like, oh, this provider says this is going on and we need to address this. So we did, or we tried to, with little to no long-term benefit in reality on a lot of things that I tried. Because I did. I tried multiple different diets, multiple different quote unquote therapies or biohacking things that should support someone, but it wasn't personalized to me, of understanding my own strengths and weaknesses. And that's what's so powerful with working with genetics, because it is the individual.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it does give you answers. That's so important. But also you realize along the way that answers aren't enough, and that without action, it can still keep people stuck. So when did you realize that having answers may not be enough? That having insights is great and it's a definite first step, but we need something actionable with that. We need solutions that come from those insights. When did you realize that, and what did that look like?
I think when I truly realized that, I had been seeing a naturopath for about a year, and she kept saying to me, you have adrenal gland fatigue and you need to do this. And I will always tell everybody, it was $300 to $400 a month in adrenal gland fatigue supplements. There was a liquid, a powder, and these different pills. Okay, well, I did it, and I was consistent, and I was very consistent for several months, and we still weren't getting results. So even though it appeared that that's what I had, and I actually had an action step, it was still generic. It was generic for the masses. It wasn't custom to me, if that makes sense. And even though I was doing what I was told I should be doing, I was getting no benefit from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And then with genetics, there's a lot of information that you can get, right? Like I remember when I did my 23andMe years ago, and you and I have joked about this a million times, but I found out that I am one of the lucky few, or maybe lucky many, I don't know how many, that is prone to having a unibrow. And I'm like, well, that's really great information. Also, I'm not prone to sneezing when I look at the sun, that kind of stuff. But I also found out that I had some, things that were potentially pretty serious that could be going on for me through my genetics. But I was left with just information. What do I do with that? So specific to genetics, do you remember when you had that aha moment of being like, wait, first find out the information, but then do something about it and have something tangible to do?
When I understood, that's such a good question, because when I understood that we are all 99% alike, but that 1% that makes us different, it literally dictates how we absorb, utilize, break down what we need, and that we need things in different formats. Before that, I didn't even know that. Nobody had ever told me, hey, you've got markers in the methylation pathway. I didn't know the what and why behind it. But once I understood that this makes a huge difference in metabolism, detox, energy, sleep, everything, when I understood that, and I understood it was personalized, these are my results, and that now I can apply the solution. Yeah, it's an aha moment. I don't know what else to say. We laugh about this. If you buy a blender, even a $30 blender, not an expensive one, you get an owner's manual. When you were born, you didn't get an owner's manual about some of these key things that literally tell us about what you need, why you need it, the format you need it, with the cofactors for the best healthy aging. It hasn't been able to be applied to the masses ever, because it was this elite thing to map your genetics and then map it to formulations that would support you. And suddenly you're sitting there with 70 bottles of things that you have to take day in, day out at all different times of the day. Mass confusion. So, and I know I'm kind of going a roundabout, but when I understood we are individuals. You need to be seen as an individual, not the mass standardized formulas that are good for somebody else.
Well, I am so excited through these next upcoming episodes, for you to really talk about this absolutely revolutionary technology that your company, SNiP Nutrigenomics, the gift that it is to the world, because some of these solutions, like you're saying, can mean 70 bottles of supplements or, whatever, and you have found a way to make it simplified. But before we get to go into that story and for you to kind of, really map things out for people, I think the listeners would really appreciate and enjoy hearing a little bit about who you were as a kid. Like, what did you care about? What were you passionate about? What were you naturally curious about?
Well, as I've said, I grew up in a tiny little town in Missouri, about 3,000 people. I was a tomboy. I I love that question. Anything to do to be able to play sports and to be involved in everything I could be. That's one benefit of growing up in a tiny little town. I was always about, if I went back and looked, I was that individual growing up that I'm not a big cliquey person. I love people for people. And yeah, I've always, things that were curiosity to me, the world, different cultures, traveling, different opportunities, et cetera. Growing up in a small town, there's not a lot of opportunity. You really have to make it yourself. So yes, when it was introduced to my technology, I literally tell people it was gifted to me. I'm supposed to be the one that takes it to the world, which is kind of funny, right? I feel that in my core, because I'm the one that can take the genetics and make it so that, because it's complicated, but I can make it that people can understand it in layman's terms, if that makes sense. I guess it's a little bit of my history. A big Midwestern family, and, just paving our way to truly put an imprint on health and wellness and be the leading step into understanding that If you're listening to this, you're an individual. I believe that there isn't a pill for an ill, but we should be starting at the root of an individual. There's too much science there now that it should be being implemented. And I want people to understand that I think when you grow up somewhere that is tiny, you also have limited resources, right? And I think that we really need to educate people that they're truly in charge of their own health. And you actually hire your doctor, even if you have limited resources. And a lot of people feel like my doctor runs my life. That's not true. You do. And I hope that through our series and this podcast, we're able to really bring clarity to people around that, how to push to get their own questions answered, how to get to the root, and to make it simpler because it's chaotic. And there's so many trends and TikTok videos and things like that. You're going, what do I believe? We believe in starting with you, the individual, to understand all of those things. So that's a little bit of history about me.
I've known you for many years, and it's been a pleasure and privilege. And yet we were teenagers when we met, and I can just envision you as a youth having these insights into, I'm going to be doing this and doing this and doing this, someday. And I'm wondering if there is an experience you might want to share, and there doesn't have to be, but if there is there something that in looking back, you're like, yep, this shaped how I view the world today, or how I give to the world today. Or, this was a moment when, in looking back, I can see that I would be leading this revolution or, making an imprint on the world in some way.
Wow, that's a great one. I think the first little episode, and this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but I think when I was 6, I had something happen to me. It wasn't anything catastrophic, but it was more of this feeling of seeing the world around me and wanting to, I don't know, be a part of something bigger. That's it. And then little episodes through life. Leadership camp where I met you was, the opportunity to see for somebody from a little small town had that, opportunity to meet. You were more of a bigger city girl than I was. Our lives were very different. And then another leadership camp in high school as well, to DC, of seeing, I used to think I thought I was going to be a politician until I went to a mock Congress my senior year. I mean, I really did. I thought that would be the way I could impact, right? And then when I saw what I saw through that mock Congress, I was like, yeah, no, my skin's not thick enough for this. I can't do this. But then through life and different initiatives, I think before I launched SNiP, I had been very involved in fundraising and really benefiting others. And I do have the ability to pull together groups or cohorts to work together for the betterment of whether it was in that fundraising space. And then next thing you knew, it wasn't just the auction, it was the entire event. It was the planning. I'm detail oriented, et cetera. So I think some of those things have led to me being able to do what I do. I mean, I know, little girl from a tiny town in Missouri running SNiP Nutrigenomics, which ultimately we do believe we will impact millions of people on this journey. Yeah, I'm the right person to lead it. It's got to come from the heart and integrity. And I think, Corey, that is one really big thing is I feel that I've seen so many companies or so many things, and some, it's not about saying anybody else is not right or this or that, but we want to lead with heart and clarity and less confusion for people. So yeah, I think my entire life has actually been grooming me to get to this. Now, grooming me to learn the new tech and to learn and to learn other things is a little different. But yes, to have the heart behind and the patience, as you know, a customized product brings customized problems. And I think being a big part of a big family, I have patience. I can deal with the little setbacks that may arise, when somebody says, hey, I ordered my customized product 2 days ago. Where is it? It has, I mean, there's a lot of things that we have to educate about. So I'm an educator and I'm a storyteller, and I take all the real life things that have happened and put them in, to be able to explain to people. So that's Kim.
It's been unfolding this whole time, and I am guessing that there's an element that people your whole life have trusted you, and that's how leadership kind of grew to, like both push you and, you taking advantage of the moments and the opportunities to lead, that people have seen you as a leader and they've trusted you. And I can see that today, daily, getting to work with you, how much people trust you. And so I'm sure glad that you said yes to this, and maybe not being a politician. Although if you were a politician, I'm sure you'd be doing a lot of good too. So I don't know about that. I would guess so. Let's talk about being a woman in a male-dominated space. And what did you have to navigate as a woman in a male-dominated environment that most people don't see? And what does that actually feel like? And what about being a woman do you think actually can lend itself to being an even stronger leader?
Well, I will tell you, being a woman in a male-dominated world, we definitely, just for any woman out there, you have to show up, right? And then things about women, basically, we might be more emotional, yet I do think that emotion and leading with caring can create a very different environment than maybe a male-dominated company, right? A male-dominant company. Believe me, and I think our team of women is extremely talented. They're all mothers. I think we multitask very well. We lead with heart. We care. So as far as in the male world, would certain people, if I was a male, probably listen to me? Would I get their ear quicker? Possibly. But what we have built, and with the people that we've built it, it's amazing and it's beautiful. And so even though, would it be great to be further along than being led by a male? Possibly. But we are going at the pace for the long term. When we as a company look at partnering or supporting you, the person that's listening to this, on their journey, we're looking at this long term. We aren't looking at you as a dollar sign, or we want to hear the story. We want the long-term relationship with the client to get to the root cause, right? The same with the providers that we work with. I don't want the one and done. I want the long-term. That's what's important. I want to be seen as that. And I don't know how that might be. Some men may think that way, but I do that they want that, but there might be a little bit different than not the caring. We care. We care, and we care for the long-term growth for the company and for the individual.
So you just mentioned motherhood in the previous question about being a female leader in a male-dominated world and industry. And in thinking about you bringing something that is transformative for our bodies, mind and body, I'm just curious how motherhood changed, if it did change your own relationship to yourself, to your body, what it was like to be Kim in the world. And perhaps any advice in looking back, since your youngest is, gosh, she's about to go off into the big world. Yeah. And so looking back, since you have, 4 adult children, how you might even approach motherhood differently in looking back, maybe in relationship to your body. But I could be putting some thoughts or words to you that may not apply.
That's an interesting question. We all could sit and pick at ourselves of what we should have or done different, et cetera. I think with my kids, and how it made me think differently, I don't know. I think I'm a different type of mom in general. First and foremost, with my children, I want them to be kind people, right? I do. I want them to be kind. I feel like I have 2 of my children are very old soul kids. They just are, and they care a lot. They care about others. I think that maybe I don't know. I think I have a big heart, and I think they've always seen that themselves in general.
Has
And
that always been the case, or has that priority kind of shifted to that over the years?
it's pretty much always been the case. This comes down with like schooling and education. Doesn't mean you have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be famous. You don't. I want you to be happy. I want you to be successful in whatever you do. And I mean, to put the effort in, right? To work and to put the effort in. Success can look different for everybody. So if you love what you're doing and you're happy doing it, that's success, right? To be a contributing member of society. I have these 4 things that I tell my kids. I want you to be happy. I want you to be able to ultimately support yourself, to be a contributing member of society. And I think that life is so confusing and complicated. But you asked how this changed me. I just think that's how I've always thought to them. And I want them to do the best of their ability. I want them to put the foot forward and make the effort. How did it change me? I don't know. I think maybe I've always been more of the overachiever. I had to be. I was one of 6 kids. I needed to show that I could handle this, or I could do this, or I could run the household, if my parents wanted to leave for a weekend. And I took over. I don't know if it was the way I was raised. And then what I think, first and foremost, I want good humans. I want good humans that care about other people.
So we are going to have so much fun in our upcoming episodes, at least the ones that I will be here. We will have fun. We always have fun, and hope that our listeners do as well. I want to take it back to you getting answers from genetic testing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to know, in a nutshell, what did it unlock for you? And how did that translate into this needs to exist for other people?
It unlocked vitality. It unlocked energy. It unlocked so many things that I had been lacking for 11 years and looking for that long-term, understanding my genetics and the what and why. Okay, that's what it unlocked for me. And truly, why for others is I thought, wow, if this is my result of it using a genetic app, using my genetics to understand me, how could I ultimately impact others to support them on their journey? We live in the sickest world right now, and there's so many things. And how can I take this technology and literally utilize it for the masses to uncover and to be able to get to their health goals easier by understanding their own? When I saw what happened with me and understanding it, I was just like, it was like light bulbs kept going off. Why aren't we doing this? Why is not everybody doing this? Why is not everybody starting with their own genetics, right? So we live in a day and age, and the science is there. We should be starting with you, the individual, about where you currently are and what your genetics say, so that we know how to get you to where you need to go.
Love it. Love it. It's almost like this has to exist. This is the way that the world is going. This is the future of health, and you're making that happen now for everyone.
Where the masses can afford it. It doesn't have to be this outrageous, out of pocket expense that nobody can afford. So,
yeah, that's so exciting. So, Kim, your podcast is called This Might Change Your Life. And I will say that I'm sure that it will for a lot of people. For this first episode, what is one thing, and it can be related to the company that you started, it could be related to anything you want, but what is one thing, one simple thing that has changed your life?
One simple thing that's changed my life? Gratitude. Yeah. I mean, we live in a beautiful place. It doesn't matter where you live in the United States, we live in a beautiful place. Be grateful day in, day out, and saying something that you're grateful for daily can totally start to change your mind shift when you are negative. That is one thing that practicing gratitude. So little tips throughout. As Corey said, this might change your life. We want you to walk away with simple things that lead to not lead you down the road of chaos and confusion, but practicing gratitude, being thankful for your life, where you are, your health, whatever. Practicing gratitude literally can change your mindset. And when your mindset is different, your body's ready to accept a lot of other things too.
For sure, for sure. And you want to know something I'm grateful for?
Let's hear it.
It's you, and it's getting to help share your story with the world. So I'm glad that I got to be here with you today. And I am so, so, so grateful that you are doing this incredible work of leading the world to discover something that is so simple or can be simple and so life-changing.
Oh, Corey, I appreciate you. We know we couldn't do this without the left and the right hand.
That's right. We're in it together. All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Corey.
Yes. Thank you, Kim.
Thanks for listening to This Might Change Your Life. If this episode resonated with you, please feel free to follow us or share this episode with somebody that you know is searching for answers. For exclusive offers and more information, visit thismightchangeyourlife.com.